All right, well, what's up, guys? Brad here. I'm with this guy. I'm going to shoot questions at him. I've got stuff that's like culturally relevant and Pastor Caleb. So I think it's awesome that we can come and ask you questions, and hopefully questions coming from you guys. A lot of the people that watch aren't from church, so
Yep.
I got you here in a hoodie. It's not Sunday. You're not preaching, but you can't help yourself. So
I just want you to know Brad has not told me what to wear. I came up with this hoodie on my own.
you look culturally relevant. Nah, it's good. And I think it's awesome that we can just come and have questions. And we talked last time about how it's important to have doubts and wrestle through that. And kind of the underlying tone was that we all put our faith in something.
Yeah,
and I thought it was awesome how you explained that. Pastor K's been a huge voice in my life, and I've had my life seriously impacted for good here. And I think it's awesome that we can come and just have conversations and hear the message that you have. And I hope people get to know you better. So good. Got questions for you.
Go, hit me up. What are we going to talk about today? It could be anything coming from you.
Yeah, well, I've got a script, but I know that we're not going to go to it. So, I had an interesting scenario. So I love talking to my mates and sort of seeing where they're at, and often we're talking about how to do more, how to get better, how to just I don't know, performance, life, that type of thing. And for me, over the last few years, I didn't grow up a Christian, but my worldview's been seriously impacted by Christ and my life changed by him. So often my mates have questions about that. So it becomes interesting chats. And not long ago, I was with a mate pumping out some weights. So
I can tell.
It was a while ago, obviously. No, and we just went there to the gym to catch up for a chat, really, because I thought it's better than having coffee. And I only train muscles that are outside the singlet. So
the beach muscles. I used to have those a long time ago.
Yeah, actually might get a photo of the peroxide as well. But it was interesting. We had a chat because he's been dealing with some stuff and had a bit of anxiety and stuff, and just had a challenging time, and hit that age where he's 30, 32, something like that, and just starting to ask big questions. And he said that he's been turning to different things to try out, to work out how to just find some peace, work through his anxiety and all that type of stuff. And he's got right into meditation, which I know has been super popular culturally at the moment.
Yes.
On the way here, I was listening to Joe Rogan, and Sam Harris was on. So he's number one atheist in the world.
He kind of is, yeah.
I'm going to ask if I'm allowed to listen to that.
I've studied a bit of his stuff.
So
I've read, he's got about 6 books.
Yeah.
And I've flicked through most of them, read a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting.
I'm interested to hear that because, I think it's fascinating that my pastor listens to Sam Harris and Joe Rogan.
I don't enjoy it, but yes, I have taken in some of the content.
Yeah, but it's important to look at because so many, they are the voice and the message 100%. That so many people are hearing. And often they do push people to turn to things like meditation. They talk a lot about psychedelics and even all types of drugs and stuff that they try out. And a lot of people have thought about things like that, but especially I think that chain of thought starts with meditation probably, which is looking internally. And I heard on the way here, Harris talked about how meditation was really taking captive of his thoughts. So the meditation he practices is focusing on breath, taking captive of your thoughts. It talks about it being like a bicep curl for the mind, that type of thing.
And you're right, because the stuff I've read about Harris, he pushes the training yourself in meditation. It's really training your consciousness, and it's all about awareness and being conscious. And this is something a lot of proponents of this stuff often lift up as quite a high value now, and that's consciousness and awareness, and through self-awareness, awareness of your surroundings, that you'll come to some kind of insight, or you'll be better, or you'll be improved, self-actualized. And it's the idea that to get to that place of consciousness, like anything, requires training, and meditation is the training tool to get you there. And I was just listening to something this morning, Prince Harry talking about racism and all this stuff, and he was talking about this subconscious bias that white people have. They don't realise they're being racist, but they are, and that's kind of the mirror of what we're talking about there, if you like. So it's this idea that well, some of you don't really realise that you're gender biased, sexual orientation bias, you're racist, but you don't really know.
Yeah.
But if we were all meditating, more self-actualised, and our consciousness was at a higher level, we would be aware of our actions, and our the colour of our skin gives us a particular history, and we'd be more aware of that and how that hurts other people. And I think it's it's basically nonsense. But
so is he saying that he's not like that because he practices these things, or is he saying that he is?
It's this idea that if you don't realise that you're white and racist, that's because you just haven't kind of attained to that level of consciousness. So it's a subconscious bias. You do it, but you don't know you do it.
Interesting.
Which is ridiculous, because basically that's saying, well, you don't have a brain if you don't acknowledge, all the things you should acknowledge about political correctness and whatever. It's because you haven't kind of acquired that level of goodness yet.
Yeah. It's such an interesting thing with this stuff, because I think Rogan and Harris say similar but in a different way. Like they're not bringing it so much to their political agendas or political correctness even, but they do bring it to their worldview, which is that really self is at the centre. You've talked to me a bit about that in the past, that we either have self pinned in the centre or we have Christ.
Yeah. I think I think it's interesting, because I would say, and this isn't solid by any means, but I'd say there's kind of three categories. I think there's meditation, which is looking within at the self. There's meditation, which is the more pure Eastern religion type meditation, which is actually about emptying the self. So it's not looking inwards to the self, because self is an illusion, and anything that's physical, natural is an illusion, and meditation helps us transcend the illusion of this world into the spiritual realm. So we're actually not trying to focus on anything, we're trying to focus on nothingness. And then there's a different meditation which we would practice as Christians, where the focus isn't on self and it isn't on nothing, but it's on God.
Interesting. I want to get there. That's really interesting. I should point out as well that I got a disclaimer because I'm a Christian, but I'm also have done TM, so transcendental meditation.
Okay.
So before I was a Christian, I got right into this as well. So that's why
tell me a bit about that.
This fascinates me a lot, because I did find it good, but I got to a point, which is what I want to chat about. And my mate kind of got there too, but he asked some really good questions, because he's saying for him, like through all the crap that he's been dealing with, to stop and focus on breath allows him to look in. The challenge is that he's still caught up in a lot of his challenges, so he escapes from it. And I think what Harris and Rogan and all those guys say about how it's a muscle, like you get to take your thoughts captive. That is important, but on the podcast I was
listening, which is a theological term you're using there. Take your thoughts captive, from Corinthians, where it talks about that to Christians, But it's I think it's interesting, because these guys who are, like Harris, I don't know about Joe Rogan, but he's pure atheist, kind of number one atheist in the world. So it's all naturalism, evolution. There is no soul, there's no free will, there's no afterlife. Christianity and these religions are totally socially constructed. There's no truth to them. But then he's talking about, things that require what you might say is religious language.
Wow, interesting.
Like, how do you articulate the inner and the faith in things we don't know, and there's something out there, and we've had spiritual experiences, and we have feelings and that. So for a guy like Harris, he's got to try and explain all of that naturally. To use naturalism as a way to explain. So it's all reality and there's a reason, which is really difficult, because often to try and talk about these things, we end up naturally defaulting to religious spiritual language, because it's the only way to depict them.
So interesting, because he said something that lines up with that. He said pretty much along the lines of all of our suffering psychologically, and arguably all of our physical suffering is a derivative of us not having our thoughts not having control of our thoughts.
Yeah, wow.
I was like, man, I'm challenged with that, because I put a lot of time into like peak performance, getting in state, being able to and I've still had a lot of suffering. And that's the point that I get to. And I'm like, well, like at some level I'm responsible for the suffering, but at other levels it's like, it's just a result of my life. And so this bloke I've been hitting the gym with.
Yes. Sorry, continue the story.
No, it's good. I love that these conversations allow like things like this to come up.
It's good.
So,
and it's actually how we talk Well, there isn't a camera in our face either, so.
It's true, but he's talking about how he's looking in, but that's my phone ringing, sorry about that, if you can hear it. He's talking about how he takes this time to escape and look in.
Yeah.
But for me, like, I didn't really have the language, that's why I wanted to bring it to you, is that I feel like when I was meditating, it was a good thing. And even today I still meditate, but now it's not like I'm meditating on trying to empty my mind.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to even meditate on controlling my thoughts. I'm more like, I would say, prayer and worship, like focusing on Christ. Because like what I want is that every time I look inside, I feel like there's a mess in there. and my brain's going everywhere. But when I focus on Christ, I've got somewhere to go, got something to look to, and He's the solution.
So you're focusing on a higher purpose beyond yourself.
Yeah.
And I think everyone knows that. Take out the spiritual bit, like even just psychologically, even as a means of motivation to get out of bed, when there's something greater than yourself, it is one of the most powerful motivating forces. Having children, a mother incredibly gets up in the middle of the night, let alone giving birth to children, let alone raising them for 20 years and a father and that. But because there's something greater than you there, it causes you to be better, talk better, work harder, earn money to raise these kids that are totally ungrateful for what you're giving them and really difficult at times, but you'll give everything because there's a higher purpose. And that's the beauty of focusing on Jesus Christ, is that, if you believe He's the Son of God and that He's there to help you in your time of need and help you journey through the challenges of life, then you're always focused on someone who's capable when you're not capable, someone who's got answers when you don't have answers. You're focusing on God who's divinely powerful and everywhere and outside of time in this world. And it's incredibly powerful. And that's where the Sam Harrises of the world would probably say, to be fair, these guys say, well, that's a good thing. And that's part of the benefit of religion. As Sam Harris would probably, or usually does say, there's lots of upsides to that.
He says it's good, but you choose it, you create it type thing.
It's good, but it's not the truth. Where we would say it's good, but it's true. It's true of, it's reality.
Interesting.
So that's the difference in beliefs there, where he would say, he's not a believer because religion is just man-made and we put all our faith in these books and there is no afterlife, blah, blah, blah. So for him, it's your truth, mate. And, you chose that path, and if it works for you, awesome. Where for us, it's like, no, this is an absolute truth, not just a relative kind of, do your thing, do your truth. This is something that transcends me, transcends everyone that we believe in. The thing is, the problem with the belief question is that, often an atheist will call themselves the unbeliever, as in they don't believe in God or religion, but they actually do believe in their atheism.
So you're saying that's a faith.
But it's a truth claim in itself. So we make a truth claim about Jesus being the Son of God, but they're making a truth claim that there is no God. So both are a truth claim, and nobody has 100% perfect evidence for that. So at the end of the day, you could say, it's just our truth, Christianity, your truth, atheism, but it's also more than that. It's also, you put your faith in no God and nothing outside of this world, and we put our faith in God, believing that He is there outside of this world. It's actually both take faith, both have a element of what we would call discipleship and training and subscribing to that faith. And that's why the science-religion argument's interesting, because people often put it down to you're either scientific or you're religious. And the atheists tend to be in the scientific, factual people. But no, Christian worth their salt is saying they don't believe in religion or they believe that facts are wrong, like we don't. And no decent Christian would ever say that religion and science are irreconcilable. They totally fit together. It was actually Christianity who gave rise to most of science in the Enlightenment periods and stuff like that. It was Christianity that pushed people, to look at the stars.
That's an interesting one.
Look into medicine, and it was because of their faith in God and wanting to give glory to God that people pursued scientific study. So there's nothing in Christianity that's against that, but sometimes people who maybe don't understand, they tend to pitch religious people as the non-scientific people, where the atheists is kind of And you look at all the philosophers, and this is kind of their train of thought, you know, Nietzsche and these modern day guys like Harris and Dawkins and that, they kind of, religion or Christianity is kind of something for, you know, you're a bit patronised.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you haven't really come to a place of intelligence.
Yeah.
You haven't really individualised properly. It's a weakness. Yeah. You need God. But if you can get to this place, maybe through meditation, where you realise you don't need God and you are strong enough, and like Harris says, you can control even your hurts and pains by just rationalising meditation, then you'll be more able to get on with life without God. But they have to say that, because if they don't, then they totally debunk their own worldview and their own train of thought, and it doesn't fit together. The dots don't join. So,
man, there's so much in that for me.
Yeah, heaps. We're getting into philosophy and stuff that's, you know, way above you and me. But